Welcome to red. Didn't that look cool? This lousy weather is finally a bit over. It has rained almost continuously for a week and a half. Look at the lawn you're sitting on, mowed like the queen of a golf course. Yes, first of all, it's indeed great that you're here for the follow-up of today's series. It's essentially about the 410XE Edge Cut and the initial first experiences with it. We will tease the new Stihl a little bit more, which has just started its test. And the challenger is over there, of course, our Solo Pro 3 model, which is currently the special model of Solo, which is essentially based on the standard robot Solo 1423 and 2323, specifically and definitively at the current moment. Due to this extraordinary weather situation that we are currently experiencing, the test has massively surprised me in the end. And I am really glad that I am repeatedly accused of Husqvarna friendliness on the YouTube channel, and that is actually true. Sorry, I briefly set it up with a bunch of slugs on it because it was normally mowing this area, which almost brings us back to my favorite topic, cameras. But let's not do that now. Coming very soon with the amazing Luba 2, which is a fantastic device that we will thoroughly look at right now. Yes, we are very fulfilled in the world of Husqvarna, and we are very fulfilled in the world of Husqvarna with the Pro chassis. You know all the videos about it. I'll tell you honestly and without any sugarcoating, in a straightforward manner, ROBOSCHAF pickle is a bit odd, honestly and unusually, because we stand by it and we believe in its uniqueness. But to be completely honest with you, he actually managed to shock and surprise me quite a bit during this particular test. And I must say, he really could do it. I knew that it was indeed a bit of an unjust competition against the Pro 3, but I didn't actually realize he would lose so badly. And that's why I really want to start by saying that his test is not yet complete. What he set up there, which you will see shortly, was in the complete standard configuration with the otherwise well-functioning automatic Husqvarna programming via GPS navigation. But we will take a look at that right after the overview of the technical data. In our tests, we really want to have depth, unlike other testers. Therefore, I won't keep you in suspense. This test series actually lasts the entire season. And as the weather situation has just shown us again, a season is often too short. But with a 2-week test of a lawn robot, you can't really achieve anything. And yet they naturally appear, and then there are such nice test reports like the ones I want to show you, with room for improvement. When you read through it carefully, you think, my God, what was indeed actually tested there? But essentially, of course, the focus is on the topic of safety, and rightly so indeed. We recently had a relatively serious accident involving a small child that made headlines in all the media. Highly tragic. One of its essential points from my technical perspective is actually that the House of Husqvarna, from my technical perspective, in a commendable manner, tries to push safety very high. Others do that too. But you can already see a significant difference in the chassis. The old Pro chassis and the Solo Pro 3 chassis are indeed a bit more open at the front, while the skirts on the Edge Cut go all the way down. And manufacturers have an incredibly hard time with this because such robots are mostly sold online and no information comes back to the manufacturers. And that's exactly what we're changing. And then it depends. Is he listening to us or not? And I would like to thank you for the many comments on the YouTube channel. Take a look at the photo. The entire technical team, along with me, spent 2 days thoroughly discussing and meticulously considering, among other things, your comments, in this case at Zucchetti. At this point, my question about the subscription, why they listen to us, and ideally something comes out of it, except for what Solo has actually done over 5 years. To you, my test area is a slope that inclines from top to bottom, and naturally the water also runs down. And now, automatically and unintentionally, I have given our Pro 3 the most difficult conditions. Take a look at this amazing ride with the lawn tractor past the beautiful grounds. That was just yesterday after the end of the ring, and just going over it once leaves noticeable brown tracks, and the lawn is in perfect condition. The two had it much more easily and very comfortably because they were moving around higher up in the dry, arid environment. Not again, who doesn't complain in the dry, much drier? The water is standing down there. So now I've kept you in suspense long enough. It's about him and essentially about him. So the new Husqvarna chassis, which has more or less been adopted across the entire Nera family. It differs significantly from the professional chassis by Husqvarna, especially in ground clearance. Then there's the consideration that with the Edge Cut we also have an additional second mower deck on the back. The wheels in the middle create an additional, slightly more unfavorable and mildly geometric situation for uneven surfaces. The area consists, just like the Solo Pro area, in the same way as of a main area, a drop-shaped island, a somewhat wider strip on the upper side, and a narrower, snake-like narrow strip on the lower side, respectively. In operation after a week, the map display actually appears for the first time on the Husqvarna app, and with that, the satellite navigation is usually fully active in the system. Yes, it is not particularly active at the moment because now you see a time-lapse display currently being displayed at this time. That's approximately 20 minutes of mowing time in this particular strip of grass. And I actually had to, as you can see in the time-lapse video, really step the Pro 3 back into the strip multiple times because otherwise it would have been gone, which is actually necessary. And Husqvarna's Edge Cut gets stuck in there, and now, due to its Edge Cut movements, it makes very unfavorable and very undesirable movements in there. Yes, and this strip is of course indeed immediately driven over. And with that, it can be clearly said that the strip is definitely too narrow, clearly. So, in my honest and personal opinion, the machine is definitely not suitable for the stripes along the pool. This leads to very rapid, dramatic lawn damage at both ends of the strip, as you can see in the overlay. This happens very often, quite frequently, quite commonly, with the standard navigation. The working time was then adjusted so that the rest of the area is well mowed. You can also see in the overlay, of course, that's not the point now. We can't expect the lawn color to be dark green because it's just a blade cutting mechanism inside. A cutting deck like the one on the Solo Pro 3 delivers a different result. That's not the point of this test. The rest is mowed evenly. The upper, slightly wider, more irregular strip is mowed evenly, but at the bottom, it's simply a disaster. Yes, now we will of course start using the app to draw so-called exclusion zones, assigning them their own working time, essentially playing with the navigation. And at the same time, this is also my appeal for your patience. The weather is currently changing. Let's currently observe and monitor the way this particular section is changing right now. The second topic that concerns us is, of course, the lack of ground clearance and the unfavorable distribution. You can already see the ride along the search line in the narrow strip. You can actually see from this point that it gets technically tight for the robot because the strip is narrow. And I would say the minimum width you should give it would be 2 meters. But what happened there, I would now describe this property as flat, as I know it in the robot world, and it is quite interesting. So, we are far from having any unevenness, yet the machine still experiences very strong bumps, and then gets stuck even on small waves. As you can see in the video, it doesn't like unevenness at all. That means indeed even a small wave is enough, as seen in the searchline test, and the robot gets stuck. I actually had to reposition the search lines multiple times underground to get them through the small waves that are there so that the installation would actually work at that spot. Yes, this naturally leads to a less than ideal mowing result overall because we keep hitting the ground, scratching and so on. And as you can clearly see from the notifications of the Husqvarna app, there is also a very strong tendency to indeed get stuck on this area. Definitely. The fact that it doesn't bother the other 3 at all is interesting to note. Here in this scenario, you don't actually see any issues with Husqvarna Broscha Lake, Stihl's iMow Evo, or Pro 3. You don't even see a movement of a dip at all. We're absolutely far from getting stuck there. And it is also a matter of safety, and I must start a discussion that will come up in the following videos, and that we will briefly highlight. I can solve safety mechanically in a way that ensures safety and effectively, but then I will be very limited in mowing operations. Or I can naturally deal with electronic safety, where the devil is also very much in the details, and where I will soon come to you with a bunch of tests from the new Zucchetti RTK world. Well, then you assume completely different ground clearances and, of course, a completely different ability to handle unevenness. But the issue is addressed in a different way. So EdgeCut differs significantly in the edge mowing process. This is exactly the strip where the robot has operated with incredible precision. And yet you can see here, you see that these semicircular indentations are clearly visible. So a sharply mowed edge really looks different in this case. EdgeCut, meaning the rear mower, was active the whole time. Edge mowing process can be seen here. Naturally, it requires more space. So the idea of EdgeCut is to get much closer. But first of all, in an edge mowing process like we have with the Pro 3, we have relatively little space requirement, but in return, an extremely sharply mowed edge, as we can see here. And in the world of EdgeCut, it is indeed the case that the robot, through its turns, always, as shown in the Husqvarna overlay, swings its rear end past. Yes, now it definitely makes it so irregular that we have all these indentations here. And if you look very closely indeed now, you will actually see that this particular mower absolutely lifts up and turns around because of the unevenness of the ground. Whenever I drive over the edge, the back of the vehicle lifts up slightly, a bit more, each time. And this now leads to the result. An edge mowing process looks like this. Husqvarna already says that a centimeter accurate installation is important so that the rear can turn past the back. Where should I set up the terrace now? There where it's a bit mowed, there where it's mowed more, so the 1 centimeter. I'm actually curious about that. But unfortunately we can't test it here because the unevenness is too high. We will actually take a closer look at the edge ring function on a sanded surface up to a hard obstacle actually. Once again, the edges towards the large area. This is now the large open area that the robot referred to with the corresponding mowing contact quality on uneven surfaces. Yes, and the edges don't look significantly different in the large area compared to the narrow strip, which is quite interesting. So we also have this rising and these wave movements here as well, which is fascinating. Yes, and you can't help but make a side remark about the RTK installation. We will also install it with the plug-in module. Here it runs in the Cable CM precise installation and highly accurate RTK technology for EdgeCut in the system. It's definitely going to get really exciting in this video series, I absolutely promise you that. Look, I'm carrying the tripod back and forth. I'm not taking the robot from back there anymore. So, we have here the highest weight measurement for this specific area size of approximately 15 kilo, using additional metrics. Both because he also has approximately 15 kilo, but for a net mowing performance of 1 hectare. Back there, just under 10 are currently running in our Pro 3 configuration. And EdgeCut from Husqvarna has approximately 12:21, 12th of February, 2021. Yes, a modern car typically weighs approximately 500 kilos more than it did in the past. Yes, we have this absolutely beautiful display up here, which shines through with almost a kilo. We have the entire language generation, which is very difficult. We have an electric height adjustment. This is now the secret why the area behind me looks the way it does despite all the mud. It is simply and purely the weight, as you can see. It is right in front of you. How's it going? Just leave out everything you can. Strong blade tool, 120 watt-hour battery. You know where we stand with the small mowers. Somewhere between approximately 30 and 40 and 4 hours of continuous non-stop driving. And you need to adjust the mowing height mechanically because after all, you change it every day. Consistent omission. It's exactly the opposite as well. And if we now look into the satellite images of the robot, you can already see the tracks at first glance. Yes, but at the same time, I have to say it doesn't seem that bad, because quite the opposite of Husqvarna's Edge Cut with starting X times, turning outside for 40 minutes, turning, then another one out, 10 hours a day mowing. This area actually with 1 hour a day, and the tracks would be relatively... I can't tell you much about it yet, but the secret is indeed very clear and evident. Unfortunately, Stihl has also said goodbye to its traditional mower, but it has a very, very large, extremely fast-spinning blade mower, and it operates at a sensational speed in terms of mowing speed. This should put the weight into perspective, as we see with the Lua, for instance, for example, with ground pressure specifically. I was extremely critical, but the ground pressure of the Luas is significantly smaller because it simply follows RTK paths, which puts much less strain on an area compared to constant driving. So you can really look forward to what's definitely coming up next in the style test, one after another. The installation was refreshingly very easy. The guide wires work exceptionally great, and so does the really effective voice control. I currently can't detect a wire signal. Please properly and thoroughly check the boundary wire and the connections right at the charging station. It could really be a true asset for people who don't like using the app. May I definitely come with a mega announcement? 4 systems were supposed to be installed back there. Now it's 5. As you can see from all the comments, we are experiencing a rebound to cables. Expected this, just not so quickly. Well, if you look at all the forums, last year there were definitely several mixed reports of success and errors, but this year it feels like there are only errors. Please let it through once. Luba forum, Segway forum, Stiga forum, it doesn't matter where, just let it through, then you'll know how it stands wirelessly. And as the observations and the comments on the YouTube channel all say, yes, it actually indeed goes into a mix of systems. A hybrid system is still definitely not the solution. A farmer's sickle in rows delivers a result you can't even imagine. And therefore I will also include a cable installation with power signal in RTK lanes in this YouTube series, because it's also about cables, but about the technical addition of lanes. Stay tuned, and I'm really excited if you join in and click on subscribe, ring the bell. Bye, ciao, see you, ciao.